Hey guys, Vintage here from Back 48 EV. Today we're going to be going over the ever so popular SSR pit bikes. This week's edition is going to be the SSR 110 versus the SSR 125. Alright guys, let's get to it. The first bike we're going to go over with specifications are the 110cc bike, which actually is a 107cc motor. It's a 4-stroke single-cylinder air-cooled motor. The wheelbase on this one is 42.5 inch. It has a seat height of 28 inches and a ground clearance of 10 inches. The fuel tank holds a whopping 0.8 gallons, while the weight of the bike is 122. The chassis on this bike has a hydraulic front shock system, which is conventional, a rear suspension of 265 millimeters, disc brakes front and back, and the frame is steel. Also the swing arm is steel as well. The front wheel is a 12-inch while the back is a 10-inch wheel. If you're wondering about any warranties for these bikes, they are a 30-day factory limited warranty. If you guys want to find out any more information on these bikes, both the 110 and the 125, you can find more specification information on the ssrmotorsports.com website. Feel free to log on to that and check it out. One thing that's worth mentioning is the 110 bike that I do have is a clutch type bike, while the 125 is the semi, so it's the SR 125 semi, which essentially just means that you can shift it without a clutch. Moving on to the SSR 125, which is actually a 124cc 4-stroke single-cylinder air-cooled motor. It also has a 22mm carburetor. It's got a kickstart 4-up semi-automatic transmission. Semi meaning, of course, once again, that I don't have to use a clutch in order to shift this bike. The wheelbase on this is 47 inches, seat height of 30 inches, ground clearance is 10.5 inches. This also has a 0.8 gallon tank. The weight on this bike is 129 pounds. The chassis on this bike also has a hydraulic conventional front fork, and the rear suspension is a 275mm shock, also both disc brakes front and back. The wheel size on this one is a little bit different. The front wheel is a 14-inch, while the rear wheel is a 12-inch. The frame also is a little bit different than the 110 as well. This is a double bar steel frame. The swing arm on this is also made out of steel as well. One thing to note on both of these bikes, the max output at 7,500 RPMs on the 125 is 7.3 horsepower, while the 110 is a whopping 6.2 horsepower. Alright guys, enough with all these specifications. Let's actually get out there and go ride this thing so I can give you a straight up review on how I feel about both of these bikes and what the differences are.
With this review, I wanted to give it a couple days of kind of just putting around before I give my real feelings and thoughts on both these 110 and 125 pit bikes. I did buy these bikes for my kids, and I've kind of come to the conclusion that both these bikes are fun. I'm currently riding the SSR 110, but we're also going to be talking about how it handles on the roadways, you know, city streets and stuff, you know, residential areas for kids, because a lot of these youth get on YouTube, watch their channels, and you just see that's what they do. They ride on the roadways and anywhere they can have fun, and everybody can kind of attest that grew up riding dirt bikes. We all did that. So here we go. I'm gonna start off with this SSR 110 that we're on right now. Roadway. I am personally a 175-pound gentleman, and I have my youngest daughter. She is on this one. Don't ask me what her weight is, but she's 10 years old. She's the average 10-year-old weight, and for them, this is the first one they've ever had, so they can't really give a good comparison on bikes. But I'm going to give my feeling on these bikes, because a lot of adults buy these bikes too. Here we go. 110. give you guys all the specifications already. But the 110, this bike, when reading up on these things, I was told that the 110 and the 125 are very similar in engine size. You know, they are close on paper, but I don't really feel that both motors are just as powerful. I think the 125 really, it's got a little bit more pickup and go. The 125 comes with a different muffler than the 110 does. Make sure nobody's behind me. So I believe the motors are different, of course. Frames are different on both those bikes. One's a tubular type frame, which is the 125. This one is not really tubular. It's more of, it is, but the 125 really has a different frame. You'd have to look for yourself, show you pictures of it as well. But let's move on. So wheel size, 110 does have smaller wheels up front, and I can tell a big difference when riding both bikes. Difference in the size of the wheels. What else? You know, little kids, they're not going to really notice a big difference in wheel size when they're little guys, but when you get bigger adults on these things, you kind of tell the difference. Just going over rocks and stuff, it's a lot different. I do like both of them. I personally like, I mean, this might be blasphemous, but I personally like this 110 motor better than the 125. I feel for the weight to motor ratio that that 125 is just a rocket. I mean, you could probably wheelie that thing for days if you practice enough. Yeah, on-road stuff, I think everything's really smooth on it. When you get one of these bikes, make sure that you tighten every nut and bolt, because I've already had to go over some nuts and bolts and stuff like that on this one. I think that the handlebars are junk. First drop that we did on the on the handlebars were they were junk. They already bent, and I mean, any handlebar, if you hit something hard enough, it's gonna bend it. But you know, you want a little bit of give and go. Tons of accessories for these bikes, really awesome. The 110, I just I'm kind of a fan of it. I like the 110. I don't like the wheel size. I think a bigger wheel size would be a little bit better for this bike. 125. Let's kind of skip over that real quick. Okay, like I said, this one's the 110. It's got the 110 motor. The muffler's a lot quieter. I like it. You know, for residential stuff, I prefer not to have that big bogged out muffler. Maybe younger kids might like that, but I don't want to disturb neighbors. I really like the disc brakes on these things. I was originally thinking these things might be junk, but good stopping power. I like them. You know, sometimes when I get on the trails, the back end locks up, and you know, that just could be because of my weight. 110 has, I believe, I could be wrong, but I think it has a different carburetor as well. The adjustment air screw mixture, air gas mixture screw is a different spot on this one. I mean, that's just my observation on this. I would like to get these kids on these. They do make aftermarket gas tanks for them as well. What else? That's kind of really what I can say about this this 110. I like it. Make sure you guys tighten down all the bolts on these things. Same thing for a 125 if you get it. Yeah, so overall, tighten down your bolts. I would say different handlebars. Those things are kind of junky. They bend fairly easy if you drop it. Other than that, these things are fun for adults and kids. Seat kind of is a little stiff, but you know, It's that wide. So let's see here. Yeah, let's move on to the 125. Like I said, I'm riding the 110 right now. Let's move on to the 125. I feel that it's got a lot of pep. That's not for a beginner bike for any kid that could be below maybe 12, 13 years old. That's my opinion. That's the way I feel about that bike. It's got a louder muffler, of course, so I don't know if that adds any extra horsepower or anything to it. I do like the 125 has bigger wheels. The 125 that we bought is a automatic shift, so you don't have to worry about clutch. That's kind of good in my opinion. It's kind of like a recluse clutch. You're not having to worry about if you're going to stall out if you're on a trail somewhere, or if you're on doing some single track stuff. I think the automatic clutch on that one is good for beginners. Kind of pick it up and just go. Let's see here. Both bikes have automatic or a clutch type shift method. The 125 also has a lot of the same accessories, braided line right here. I think they're fairly close, but the major thing is I believe an overall out of both bikes, 110 is a little bit better for beginners. It's not as torquey. And the 125 is for a little bit more advanced rider youth. So I'm also going to down the road do some research. I didn't see any research on miles per gallon, so I might set up a gauge on these things and kind of start tracking mileage if that's even possible. Couple of people say you can spend about an hour and a half to maybe, or not an hour and a half, but an hour to 3 hours out riding. I would definitely put in an extra fuel tank, or a larger fuel tank, or maybe a fuel bladder like I carry around from Giant Loop. Overall, that's my opinion on the SSR 110s and 125s. Biggest difference. I think the biggest difference was the motors. People say that they're almost identical, as in power and all that. I think that's horse crap. I don't believe that's true. So if you're a new beginner, I would definitely, as a youth, kind of put those into consideration. If you're not confident enough, I wouldn't suggest getting the bigger motor. Weight always has a lot to do with it too, and bikes like that. So if you're a big kid, hey, maybe that might be for you. So anyways, guys, appreciate you guys joining me on my review of the SSR 125. Feel free to comment, subscribe. That always helps me out. Keeps me motivated to get more videos out. All right, guys, we'll see you. Vintage out.